Hey, what is going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and Rich Lopp here for the Awakening Experience Memorial Day edition. What's going on, Rich? How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Got good and rested up this weekend. Had fun on Friday out watching you DJ.
Yeah,
that was
dude.
cool. It was one of the few times that we've been out over the past couple of months. We're kind of boring hermits and we don't do much, but that was fun. And yeah, I'm pumped and ready to go, ready to drop some knowledge.
I believe it or not, Sophia and I are the same way. We don't go out much, so it was fun. It was good to have dinner. Just for me, it was my last DJ gig before being a dad, so it was kind of like a bye-bye to the last 15 years. Like that was a fun life. I mean, it doesn't mean I won't DJ still. It just means like it's gonna be different from now on, which kind of brings us into the star card, for today's show. What do you feel about the star card whenever you see it to you? I'd put in the title, we both said this, but you had brought up Starseeds, and I thought it was an awesome segue to that. But there's also so much with this card. But what else do you see it as? Well,
usually, obviously, some of the easiest, most simple explanations is wishes being fulfilled. I don't really like to go that simple with this card usually. And of course I read reversals too, the way I read. So typically, most of the time, if it comes out in the upright, it indicates a positive outlook. And in the reverse, a negative outlook. But it's also a card that I use to indicate universal knowledge and understanding. So like whenever you're going through those periods of awakening, where you're just like, boom, and your head blows, and you can't really put words behind it.
Right.
Like you try to explain it, you sound like a nutcase. You just understand something that is so mind-bogglingly complex that you can't really explain it. That's the card that I'll just basically say universal knowledge and understanding. If it comes out as advice, like one of the things that I'll say is you already know everything there is to know about this situation. Quit trying to overthink it. Quit overthinking this person's motives. There's no hidden, you already know. So,
right. I mean, well, for me, the star card, and I love those points of view that you have because I feel like, I think that the wish that we identify with in life is actually the wish to where we're out of shit and we're connected to the divine. I mean, I'm an astrologer, so this card's definitely personal to me because there is the stars in this card, and there is the nakedness of being in your true self, and all you have left in the universe always is you and the universe, like in the guidance by the universe. Now, we did the Tower card, and I feel like it's so interesting that after that Tower, and just it comes to the Star card, where it's a fresh start. There's zero to look at that's negative except for reconnecting with the universe. And we go through, I feel like it's a humbling card, but it's like the aftermath of the humbling and received the humbling and that energy about moving forward with it too. Like there's definitely a moving forward, even though it might not seem like it, but it definitely is a card that I think the stillness of the understanding of where you're moving forward too.
Well, I don't think I've ever met any spiritual person or honestly most successful people, self-made successful people. That's the process they go through. Everything crumbles and burns, crashes to the ground. Everything you thought you knew about who you are, it all gets ripped out from under you.
Right.
And then at that point, what's left to turn to? And then that's when people usually go through their awakening and start rebuilding. That's what happened to me. That's what's happened to almost every client that I've worked with and read for, and any spiritual public figure. We all pretty much have kind of a similar story,
It's true. And that's because I feel like, Ford, for example, he lost his business multiple times before he became successful. But I feel like on the spiritual journey, you're not really finding your alignment until you have your crash and burn moments. And it's the positive of the reflection, because there is that reflection of the waters that she's looking at, but it is the Aquarius card too, where there has to be there's always a breakdown and then there's the breakthrough. And it's the breakthrough card to me, the star card, after the breakdown. And actually, that's what Aquarius is. It's like we have our breakdowns, something breaks, some crazy situation happens, and Aquarius knows how to figure it out in some crazy way, put all the dots together and see, oh, that was the meaning of it that got me to this place. And that's why the stars are in here, which is interesting too. It's the seven sisters, which when you brought up Starseeds is the Pleiades.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's interesting. The whole light work comes from the star system of the Pleiades, the cluster, and the seven stars deal with. Also, seven is the spiritual number, but it also is the seven sisters that are up there that are in Taurus, right? But if you use Western and use tropical, that sit at 0 Gemini. So it's one of those, the seven sister cluster. But that's what I think so interesting about the card is that there is that energy of, you could see that the water bearer energy is in there, but the water's actually hitting the ground. I don't know if you ever noticed, but in astrology, Aquarius is always pouring the water, but it's not hitting anywhere, and it's up in the clouds. Uranus is up in the clouds, and he doesn't actually, it's not like you see where the water's going, but this one's going back into the earth. So there is something about where we also have to have that emotional element. Water is so emotional. So it's an emotional moment. I feel like there's Aquarius though it's not about the emotional aspect as much as it is like, okay, I've detached from the emotion and I'm actually going somewhere. So it's kind of an in-between of like, I see it, but I'm in the emotion still and I'm finally ready to start to kind of go somewhere, if that makes sense, which kind of makes it very unique, but it is the Aquarius card too.
Yeah. And Aquarius energy is a really confusing energy for a lot of people. Like,
yeah,
I don't care what the energy is. Like, just because that's your energy, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to know how to use that energy. You know, because shit, I've met some Aquarians that they misuse that energy like crazy.
Right.
But that's one of those ones that I think most Aquarians that I've met in my life, you can kind of tell that whether you're doing it or not, your mission is a little bit different than most other people's.
Yes.
And most Aquarians are really fucking weird in their own way. One of the things, I tell you, I always had this game that I would like to play back in the day where I would try to guess someone's sign. And it was just something I would do for myself, just for the fun of it, just to keep myself entertained. And I was so accurate. I had like a 98% accuracy. Like if I'm working at a job and a new employee gets hired on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to guess your sign. And I'll just sit back and watch. I'll watch you for 2 months, 3 months. You know, I'll just see how you interact with people, watch how you react to certain situations. And 98% of the time, I could guess your sign. But Aquarians threw me off every time. That's one thing that I've noticed. I've never met any two Aquarians that are anything alike at all, which is so confusing because they're all so different that it's like really hard to pinpoint what makes these two Aquarians alike. They're two completely different people. And it's a very confusing energy, but it makes sense now that we're going into the age of Aquarius, seeing the shit that we've been going through, you know?
Exactly. The only time I've ever been able to nail two Aquarians are partnership Aquarians. It's the only two sun signs in the same relationship that work because they both allow each other to be their unique selves, are cool with each other being unique. Because in relationships, the little things get to us. And I feel like the star card's one of those things where you can't let things get to you anymore, too. It's one of those cards where it's like, are you still thinking about that? Like, this is now where you're reflecting on where you're going now that it's over. Mm-hmm. So, especially in relationships, I always look at this card as like, oh, wow, you just finally are in a good spot. You finally have cleared out that stuff. But that's one of the tricky parts of the star card is it's like, where's it going next? Because there can sometimes be like, well, I know I'm going in a good place. I'm manifesting good energy. But am I sure? Like there's a question. And I think that's why the stars, not even I think, I know that's why the star card has the stars there. It's like our spiritual guidance guides us. And we that's our number one always. Like no matter what happens, no matter how much we feel we're doing in life, no matter what's going on, there's star card moments all the time in our life. No matter how spiritual you think you are, it's like that, it's like that guidebook that you just already know. You have to refer back to it all the time. I'm just like, let me get back to the simple, basic understanding. That's what I love about this card is it's simple and it's the basic. It literally can't be painted any more clear. Mm-hmm. And I love that there's mountains on the horizon too, as there's a lot still out there. And sometimes I think when people go through hard situations, when things come to an end, like we've covered with the Tower, the positive is look at how much life there is. It's infinite. There's an infinite about this card. And the wholeness of you and yourself with just you and the divine. I think that's like one of the, people miss that in today's world. The 3D gets us so fucked up. This is the most opposite 3D card there is.
Yeah. And also, like you had mentioned about being a starseed, that was, I don't know if that's something that anybody else does. I just started having clients come to me asking, am I a starseed? And I'm like, how the hell would I read that? I guess I'll look for the star card.
I mean, it aligns perfectly because of the Seven Sisters, because it is the card that actually, it kind of is weird that she's naked here on Earth, right? Mm-hmm. But the star is the biggest thing, right? And there's those Seven Sisters, right? And it's focused on that understanding of I'm from the stars, brought here, pouring the water actually on Earth. I'm pouring the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, because that's actually what Aquarius is it sits on top of the cloud. It doesn't let the emotions overwhelm it. And so I feel like when we go through the awakening experience in life, we go through that star card moment after we've gone through that. Some people call it the Kundalini awakening. Some people call it like a walk-in. I know I kind of felt like I was a walk-in experience. Really? I don't know if you feel that way on your journey, but.
Well, I mean, I've had a couple of people say that it's very possible, especially from my suicide attempts.
Right.
And then after my latest suicide attempt, which was on April 10th, 2015, I mean, it didn't happen immediately, but everything that happened after that set me on a completely different path that turned me into a totally different person. I don't know though. I didn't have an NDE for my second suicide attempt. Right. I did for my first, but not for my second one. I just, I hung myself with a belt. And then, but my next conscious memory is I'm waking up on the dirt floor thinking I'm in bed about to go to work. And then I roll over and I'm like, what the hell am I doing on the dirt floor? And then I saw the belt hanging up from the ceiling.
That story's so crazy.
Yeah, the buckle had snapped off and then it all came rushing back. And I was like, oh my, I was so embarrassed. I was panicking because I had my two kids at home. And my only thought was, I need to make sure my kids are okay. Now, I knew they weren't going to see anything because I had to, remember I showed you the pictures?
Yeah, I know.
It was a cellar, and that cellar door was probably like 60 pounds. It was heavy. So they weren't going to open that. They weren't going to see nothing.
Well, and you contacted the police right before you did it.
Yeah, I did that because I wanted to make sure my kids would be okay.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't, I'm like, good God, they're little toddlers. They could burn the house down, go running out into traffic. You know, I'm like, as long as I can make sure my kids are okay. So I planned it out for like 4 months. And I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get home. I'm going to make sure they're all settled down and watching TV and calm and cool or something like that. Then I'm going to contact the police so they can come make sure my kids are okay. And I'm fucking out of here. So that's what I did. And like and this is like how delusional my mind was back then. I even took every medication that I could find and downed them all. I didn't think that was going to actually kill me, but I didn't
know that part.
Yeah. My thought process was, even if they try to revive me, I'm going to have too much drugs in my system and nothing will work right. So I'm gone. I'm out of here. Fucking deuces. So that's what I did. I picked up my phone and I typed into the New Albany Police Department. My name is Richmond Lopp. My address is 1413 Charter Street. You need to come pick up my kids right now because I'm about to kill myself. And I clicked send. And you know the little thing, it goes bloop, it dropped down and I saw that they saw it. So I threw my phone on the ground and put the belt around my neck and dropped out instantly. Painless. I didn't feel nothing. Bam, instantly. But I woke up with my memory erased. I had no memory of what happened when I woke up. I was just on the ground and like, you know, when you first come to consciousness in the morning before your eyes wake up and you know you're awake, that was my next conscious memory. So I'm thinking, oh shit, my alarm hasn't gone off yet. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'm cold. God damn it, I'm cold.
That part got me when you talked about the beat. I'm cold.
Yeah, I was freezing because it was a dirt floor. It was a dirt floor. And I was like, where's my blanket? Where's my fucking blanket? And I'm feeling all over the place. And then my nails dug in the dirt. And I snapped my eyes open. And I went, what the fuck am I doing on the dirt floor? I don't know how long I was out. It couldn't have been much longer than 5 or 10 minutes. The police department wasn't that far away. And then when I rolled over and saw the belt on the ceiling, that's when I heard boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh, shit. So they took me to University of Louisville Hospital and just to x-ray my neck to make sure I didn't break any vertebrae. And then they stuck me in a mental hospital. And that's where I sat for the next month. And I remember being so pissed off. I'm like, I've been planning this shit for 4 fucking months.
Right.
And it was a big, thick belt buckle. There is no way. How the fuck did that belt buckle break? That's a big, thick belt buckle. You know those big, heavy-duty belts with the 2 holes that go from one end to the other, and they got them big, thick buckles?
Was it from Marshall's?
Something like that, yeah.
That's probably why it's made in China.
But I was so pissed. But then I remember thinking...
China saved your life.
I remember thinking, I'm not allowed to leave. Now, at this time, I knew nothing about anything spiritual. All I knew was, I'm not allowed to fucking leave. I'm stuck here. There's no way I live through this shit. I'm not allowed to leave. So, and after that, never been suicidal again. And it's weird. So was that a walk-in experience? I have no conscious memory.
I would say, 1, do you even recognize yourself now to the person you were? Erase the suicide attempts, but just the person you were up until that point and then after.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right? Because I think that's what a lot of walk-in energy is, where it's like somehow it's like some sort of weird contract of like, I mean, this is how I've always through my own experiences, through past life meditation or past life regressions, and even just having so many of the awakening experiences bringing me to that place where it was like, I actually remember getting like shoved down here, but also like, it was like, it's like you have a placeholder. And then, you know, people like to talk about people who are just kind of like agents walking around the Matrix. It's kind of like, we're kind of like that until we choose to come down here to do the work at a right X factor moment. And then that's when it feels so uncomfortable. And there's usually a mental aspect to it, like a mental hospital or outpatient or feeling like you're going crazy. Because it takes over that system and has to go through the 3D matrix and break it out as you come in. Like the last thing in my mind I wanted to be when I was a kid, or that I couldn't have even manifested the thought of what I do. That's another way to look at it too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel the exact same way.
Right? Like what?
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing that in my future? That's my life?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. So, I mean, maybe, possibly, I've had a couple of psychics say, yeah, I'm kind of getting a vibe that you may have been a walk-in, possibly. I don't know, though. I kind of lean more towards probably not, honestly. One thing that does resonate with me as a starseed.
I mean, you wanted to walk out.
Yeah. Well,
that means you wanted to walk in.
I don't know. One thing that does resonate, though, is that when I heard Dolores Cannon saying that a lot of the volunteers, one thing that is very common, or was back in the day that this wave was coming in, was miscarriages. Because the energy would try to come in and incarnate into the fetus during pregnancy, and it'd be too much energy, so it would kill the fetus, and the mother would miscarry. And then I'm like, dude, that's fucking me. My mom had a miscarriage before me. And then, so what they would have to end up doing is spoon feeding the soul to the body over different stages throughout their life. So you'll see them go through lots of radical transformations throughout their life as the human body adjusts to the energy and adjusts to the vibration, because it can't handle all the energy at once because it kills it. That actually resonates a lot more than a walk-in experience. But
how far off was it from when your mom had a miscarriage before you were then born?
I believe about 1.5 2 years, something like that.
Yeah, because like that happened to me too. My mom had a tubal pregnancy before I was born. And then they were like, yeah, don't get pregnant. And then boom, my mom got pregnant like a couple months after. So I took over the womb when there was another soul that should have been in there. They call that a rainbow baby. But that makes sense too. So I had both those experiences. But that's what's crazy is I feel like that, you know, this actually opens up a whole new can of worms for me about this star card. It almost kind of is the walking card too. Kind of as the naked souls walking in connected. It's kind of like internet to me. It's kind of like the soul's got the Wi-Fi. It's right there. You know, the universe. Like there it is. And it's actually connected now. Whereas like we come in here and I think some of us kind of sit on safe mode. Not really connected to the internet. Just kind of cruising until, you know, all right, it's our time to go. Now, boom. But we have all the memories and all the stuff that understands the 3D to work with it, to understand how to communicate and to channel it to others.
Yeah. That, well, whenever I use the term, well, you got to be careful with your verbiage because, again, like we've talked about, the spiritual community loves to latch on to buzzwords. And we tend to get stuck in this mentality of one answer and one truth.
Right.
And it's not quite that simple. But the only way I can throw a blanket over Starseeds is I just call it volunteers. Because there's a lot of volunteers who are here helping in the shift from the old world to the new. But when I use the word starseed, I'm not referring to long-term humans who have already graduated the Earth school. Because we got a lot of those too. I've talked to them. I've interviewed one before. I'm talking about a being who has never been here to Earth before.
Right.
Who volunteered to come here from a totally different star system. And I've been told by a very trusted source that most aspects of me have never been here before. But there's a couple of different aspects of me that have had about 10 lifetimes here. And yeah, I'm one of the beings, and it makes perfect fucking sense. As soon as I was told that, I was like, dude, that's it. I've never understood. When I was a kid, I can remember being a little kid looking around, like consciously thinking to myself, how do all the other kids just know what to do? Like, I feel so out of place here. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to act? How does everybody know? I don't even know how to really put words to it.
As if like you're not fitting into the equation ever.
To just being a human.
Yeah, it's like people would call it shy, but I would call it more like, why am I not fitting in? And then I feel like some kids, unfortunately, today get, you know, looked at as like, well, it's just that they have a mental problem or something. Mm-hmm. Back then in our time, it really kind of wasn't that. It was just kind of like you just dealt with it, you know? Yeah. And I think that actually is what, though, kind of brings you to a point, because if you think about it, like you brought up the Starseeds never being here before, but then also you remember past lives here. What I feel like it is completing the whole journey here, going back and then going, you have to go back again, as if the contracts were all done, and making a new contract that's never been done before, to be like, I have to go back there again. But that's what I've gotten the download is that's the new universe is being built. So the architects of that new universe and imagine this first universe, like it's great, but some fucktard souls took God's great fucking plan and didn't follow the guidebook. And imagine a new universe where the guidebook's being followed by people who've been through the work, and to realize how important it is to, what would it be like if we could all manifest a universe that actually, like, it's like, look at the country today, right? Like the Constitution's been thrown out the window in a lot of cases. So it's like, imagine the universe having its own spiritual, divine way, the natural way that divinity works, alchemy, all these things, and people going off of it in the universe. Guess what happens? If you think about it, when they take all these pictures of all these stars and all these nebulas and clusters, it's like, and they say that there's life there. I'm like, no, that's just the junkyard of the universe, where every soul that thought that they could manifest whatever they want off of the divine plan. Kind of weird how we were talking about the Wheel of Fortune last card, about how, you know, you in sync with the universe to go in the next chapter. It's like, imagine these these other beings, right? These beings that literally think they're God to go create their own little suns with their own fucking galaxy, and they all aren't able to create the life that's here on this divine planet, this living library. Like it's like they don't. It's just a junkyard to me. It's like we're looking at all the wasteland of a universe full of a wasteland of all these souls that tried to be God. I don't know.
Wow, that's a trip to think about. I've never thought about that like that before, ever. But what I get kind of tripped up thinking, and I'll be 100% honest, being a human who was born into and brought up in the 3D system, just like we all were, once that old system is gone, you have to think, what incentivizes you in this system to do anything? Like, this whole game was built on fear.
Yeah.
So when the fear goes away, and like for example, getting up and doing something like doing this right here, what we're doing here, you know, like whenever there's no money in the equation,
right?
On a day where we don't feel like it, what if we didn't feel like it? Are we going to do it anyway? You know, do you see what I'm saying? Like what incentivizes?
Right. It's a holiday today, and most people are out doing their thing.
Yeah. So what's going to incentivize you when there's no such thing as rich and poor? When there's no such thing as failure and success? When there's no such thing as all these 3D constructs?
Or a vacation day or not
vacation days and saving your money. When all those old 3D incentives are thrown out the window, then what is going to incentivize you to manifest and create an experience in the new world? That's what I get tripped up with.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you think of the star card, is this a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Monday? Those concepts are out the window. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like, you know, you bring up the incentives. It's like people treat a day like today because it's Memorial Day, and I appreciate Memorial Day for all the people. But again, there's another interesting part to it for all the people that died for the country in a war. Like, and that's what we're trying to stop. I'm not trying to get rid of Memorial Day. Trust me. I'm just trying to say, like, it's a day about honoring that. But there's another element to where it's like people choose, because it's a Saturday and their day off, or because it's a Monday, it's a 3-day weekend, they give it an extra. And that's actually a moment where they're manifesting, and they can see it in their lives. But they don't realize it because they just think that's because the way it is. Like this calendar that just goes off to infinity and to nowhere of a block. My life is living in the blocks, right? It's like, because it's that holiday, I'm giving it special, more manifesting attention than if it was just any old weekend where it's like, I didn't do much this weekend, you know, I've been busy or whatever. But because it's an extra day off, I'm going to manifest more. So people know how to do this shit.
Yeah.
But I love that you bring up when you get rid of the incentives. There are no incentives here because everything's an incentive. The universe is a full-blown incentive itself. But it's defined by the connection to listening to the universal, to following your inner guidance. That's the other part of this card, is it's the inner guidance system being activated, because you brought up the fear. The Tower card to me is not a fearful card. That's the false fear of because the Star card's what comes after. It's like, what do you mean? All that shit that falls. So everybody's afraid of what's going to happen with the markets right now, or afraid of what's going to happen to Earth even. No, the towers are going to fall that are not in alignment with the universe, because that's what the tower is. You're not in alignment with the universe. And you get to the Star card where everybody's in this internal guidance system. But that, in order for us to get to there, we have to watch that stuff. And instead of being afraid of it, it's not about celebrating either too much, I think, either. I think it's much more about being like, all right, seeing that happen, because the Star card's all about seeing the points, seeing how it's all connected to bringing you back to a true understanding of your divinity, really, you know, your true understanding of your soul and how it connects. So those things have to happen, and those are the incentives. Boy, oh boy, those tower cards are, people look at the tower as like, oh my God, I won't be able to go buy something. But it's like, no, it's like, imagine the calendar system being taken away, right? Mm-hmm. There was a time on this planet where there were no days of the week.
Yeah.
There were no, the first recorded months, I did a whole special on this, still on YouTube, Age of Deception. They used to meet on the new moons and the full moons, mainly the full moons, in old Greece, and just like they would just make up like a Roman or a Greek letter and be like, this is this cycle, and we all meet back here on the next lunar cycle. So they used to use the stars to connect. Well, now we use not the divine. We use this crazy calendar system that's just like putting us all into blocks, and it doesn't lead us to anywhere. Have you noticed that? It doesn't lead us to anywhere. It just leads us to numbers of a year.
Yeah.
And the year is not even the true year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What about this one? This one's the one that irritates me the most. Birthdays. That celebrating your birthday makes you age faster. And you're casting a spell. What do you need to cast a spell? You have to light a candle. You have to say an incantation 3 times. Happy birthday to you. Think about it. You're casting a spell that makes you age.
We were just talking about candles this weekend. That's crazy.
Really? Yeah.
Remember, I was talking about how
to
roll an intention in your own candle and set a positive intention and light the candles. And I was saying that we should all do that together. Mm-hmm. But that's crazy that you bring that up. You're not making the candle when it's your birthday candles either. You're buying it from fucking Party City or wherever the fuck it is.
Yeah, and that's another one of those things that, I'm celebrating because this is another thing about the manifestation path that I don't really talk about too much. Honestly, it's the only course I didn't take in the Mind Mastery School that I attended is age reversal. Now, this is a very real thing. You have the ability to control what goes on inside your body. You have the ability to heal yourself. You have the ability to make yourself sick, because that's what makes us all sick. Mm-hmm. We make ourselves sick. We manifest our diseases and our illnesses. You also manifest your age, and you have the ability to reverse your age. And I don't touch on that too much now because I just started dabbling into that. I don't know how successful I am with it. I do see comments from time to time saying you look younger. I don't know, but I do know that that's one big thing. And I've just never really been big on my birthday anyway. I just really haven't. It is not uncommon at all for me to not even realize my birthday's coming up until the fucking day before.
I mean, you are an Aquarius. So I will say the one sign that you ask about an Aquarius birthday and they're going to be like, do not even think about celebrating my birthday, please. But it's funny though, because it is still true, because it's on a calendar system where as an astrologer, I do readings, and when I do their solar returns, I'm like, actually, your birthday was yesterday, or your birthday's tomorrow. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, because it's about the sun's solar return, the return of the sun to the exact position it was when you were born in the one cycle, right? So it's like, because of the leap year, because of our calendar system, people have no idea that as an astrologer, it's like, no, it's not like I'm born 8:05 a.m., July 23rd, 1984. It's not every year on July 23rd at 8:05 a.m. is my birthday, right? It's when the sun comes back to 0:55 minutes of Leo, right? And the sun slows down in the spring and the summer, and it speeds up in the fall and the winter. So it's like, it doesn't happen exact. Now, the years to where it does come back, that's technically the closest that you could be, where it's almost like, shit, I'm having the same rising and the same sun as I was when I was born. To get it with the moon, too, is very rare. But when that happens, whoa, that's a year you pay attention to. More so than ever than, oh, God, I'm having a bad return with all these bad planets. I'm like, okay, yeah, we all get those. But it's like, when you're returning and things are returning all at the same time, it's not a spell as much as it is like, you having the willingness of knowing like, okay, I've returned and this is a moment of my star moment. Mm-hmm. You were saying to me that every year you use New Year's though. Yeah. Which is a good one though, I feel. But I feel like for, that's what a birthday really should be, is it's your new year of like, what did I learn? I'm going to be a better person this year. Mm-hmm. This card is always about being the best person you can literally be, which is connected to the universe in every way. And it's a fresh, I guess you could say it's a fresh start card too, right? Like it's the fresh start card, But I think it's about that fresh intention. Mm-hmm. Really,
This brought up this old memory back in the day when I used to work day jobs and whatnot. I worked with this dude who, pretty sure he was African. Black guy who had an accent, and I think he was African. And he was cool. I kind of made friends with him. And then I don't remember how it got brought up. But one day I said, how old are you? And he said, 32. Wait a minute. 1980. When's 1986? Is that 31 or 32? And I was like, and I said, well, tell me how old you are. How old are you? He goes, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? He said, we don't have birthdays in my country. They just came up to us in my little village. We had a little straw house, you know. They came, picked us up, put us on a plane, flew us to America, and gave us all the same birthday. I was like, so you don't know when you were born? He goes, no. We were assigned a birthday. And I remember my mind being blown.
Right.
I could never, up until that point, I never even thought about not knowing how old you are. And I was like, whoa. So what would it be like? I don't have a clue how old I am. I could be 28. I could be 32. I could be, I don't know. So that put things into a weird perspective for me. And what if he was like 40? He looked close to my age. I was in my early 20s at the time, but he didn't even know. Every single person in his village that got picked up and put on a plane was assigned the same birthday.
Right.
And they were all different ages because they didn't do birthdays. They didn't follow the calendar system.
That's crazy. But, you know, that's where as astrologers we do rectification, where we'll actually talk to the person and rectify their chart and help them find it by using actual events like, okay, asking them questions. Did this happen at this time in your life and so forth? It's a long process, especially for somebody like that. That would be a long one. I'd be looking over. I'd be like, what was, okay, you're around this year. Okay. And then I would already go off features of them and how they speak and all that to get close. And then I would rectify. And then I would be like, no. And then I rectify. And then I rectify. And I keep rectifying until it aligned, where it could be like exact, like at, you know, this time period. If you didn't know his age, right? It would just be like, this happened to you. Yep. Okay. This happened to you. Yep. This happened to you. Yep. All right. And that's a process.
You could narrow it down and find their birthday like that.
Yeah. Astrologers, we do rectification a lot.
Wow.
Especially there's more so on the end of like somebody's like, I don't know the time I was born. Right. Or I'm born, especially if you're adopted. Sometimes people don't know either if they were abandoned. Right. So it's like, well, I know I'm in this month in this year. It's like, oh, okay. So the rectifications usually go into that. But to that case, that's the most extreme rectification.
I would imagine.
And I was going to say that though the spell thing is very Saturnian too, count your age, right? Saturn return, right? And the calendar system and time, right? And like, that's where the star card is not paying attention. It's a timeless card. There is no time here.
Yeah.
The only time there would be is just understanding it's at night to be able to see the stars. That's really what the Aquarius Saturn is, of the rulership originally, is the understanding of like a divine time system. Whereas Capricorn is more, no, you know, this is your 34th year. You haven't done this yet, you know, the days are counting. But I feel like as Starseeds, though, it is a reminder in a positive sense about understanding whether you want to use birthday or a new year for somebody like you or something like that, where it's like, we got to have some gauge of like, there is only so much that time of what we have to do, you know what I mean? And there's divine moments, I feel, that are not so much about like your own age, but when we're all called up at a certain divine time. But that's when I think we get to like the judgment card, you know.
What about this one too? I was wondering your outlook on this. With the fucking 13th zodiac sign. Now, I first heard this when I was in my early 20s, and I started thinking, okay, so let's just assume that that's true. That I think they said that would make me a Capricorn, I don't remember, to put that in there. But I'm like, okay, I can take this block of time from this date to this date, and that's the sign of Cancer. And if you were born in that block of time, that energy fits you to a T. And like, I can basically go through the whole zodiac wheel and I can very, very plainly identify the energy of Scorpio in somebody who apparently was born during Scorpio. So that doesn't even make sense to throw that 13th zodiac sign in there and tell me that I'm actually a Capricorn. I don't have a fucking Capricorn bone in my body. What's your outlook on that?
Oh, well, I mean, it's one, of course, that you see like people on media try to debunk astrology by saying, wait, there's 13 signs. They're not following that. But there's a tropic of Cancer and a tropic of Capricorn. There's tropical astrology. That's what we practice as Western astrologers that typically you hear, right? So that you're referring to the 13 zodiac signs with Ophiuchus, which is the serpent bearer. We have a wobble on the earth, 23-degree tilt, and it wobbles. So what's constant, though, is the Tropic of Cancer, which is on every math, and the Tropic of Capricorn. So March 20th, 21st, depending on where you're at in the world, right, is spring. So we have an equinox. Mm-hmm. We have another equinox September 23rd, right? So depending on where you're at the earth, it goes either the Tropic of Capricorn when it reaches the peak of the solstices in Capricorn. If you're in Australia or the southern hemisphere, it's summer. So it doesn't matter about the wobble because what happens? Every year the seasons come at the exact same time. Because what does change is our viewpoint of the zodiac signs. Now, the stars, the constellations, but we don't base astrology off that. We base it off the path of the ecliptic of the sun. So every day when you go outside, the sun is always going to rise in the east and set in the west. So there's a 100% constant. When you get into Ophiuchus, based off the wobble, and there's some conjecture to this of whether or not you count that we actually go there based off the way that you look at it. But for those out there that are into that, they can do that. But they're not basing it off the understanding of the sun's path on the ecliptic and the precession of the equinox. So when we get into the ages, right? When we're looking at the age of Pisces, when the sun comes to the beginning of Pisces and comes to the end of Aquarius because it's going the other direction in our viewpoint. That's all based off the precession. So there's 23 degrees in precession. There's 23-degree tilt on the earth. That's why 23 is such a magical number, right? That with the wobble, let's say 4,000 years ago, and especially 2,000 years ago, we were at the equal point to where you looked out, the sun was at Aries at 0 degree right before we came in the age of the age of Pisces. So it was exactly the earth, everything was all aligned perfect. Now we've been wobbling, and especially if you think of the last 2,000 years of Pisces, everything's off, right?
Yeah.
So it's the understanding that things are off, but you don't stray off the inconsistent path in astrology. You only follow the constants. Same thing with tarot. You follow the constants. You don't follow the things that you don't start taking this card and then take out a pen and start writing something else and say, cross out the star and go, you know what? This is I don't know.
Yeah.
This is the asteroid card, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole point, is that there's a constant. And that's the beautiful part of tropical astrology, is that when the energy of, like, let's say your sun sign, it's like, well, yeah, from March 20th to April 20th, the sun goes to where it's gaining more light per day. That's the energy of Aries, where the sun exalts itself. So it's not about the zodiac as much as it is about the 12 understandings of the zodiac that go through the sun's ecliptic into the equator understanding and what's actually happening on Earth. Because no matter what's happening with the wobble or what you see as the foreground of the constellations, that changes. And what doesn't change is the seasons. What doesn't change is the sun always. The sun isn't just going to rise in the west and set in the south. You know what I mean? Like there's a constant, and we follow that constant because no matter what, through the thousands of years of ages of time, it's always going to come back to that center point. Like it did when we left the age of Aries into Pisces, and that's when it started slipping. So that's why so many things are in confusion right now, and people are also reading everything in all these different ways.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that too, because I had a really strong suspicion that you can tell that it's just people trying to debunk shit, because there is like this fucking ruthless dark force out there that just does not want people to understand information that's actually going to help them awaken or help them improve their life or help them understand, the real laws of the universe and whatnot. So there's just this dark force out there that, they fucking pay people. I'll give you an example, and this is kind of off subject a little bit, but Kangen water. I'm sure you've heard of this. Mm-hmm. Like, when I first heard of the Kangen machine, it was kind of unheard of. I knew that it was something that only NASA used for the longest time to keep the astronauts in a real
alkalinity high.
And it's ionized water. Because breathing in all that oxygen will cut their life expectancy in half. And I finally got my hands on a Kangen machine, and I go start looking it up, and all you see is scam, pyramid scheme. It's a scam. It's snake
As they're drinking
oil.
their Dasani that's from a fucking warehouse.
And I'm like, those dirty motherfuckers. Right. They would go out here. Big Pharma would go out here and pay people to say, oh, it's a scam. It's snake oil, a pyramid scheme. You know what I mean? And it pissed me off so bad, this dark force out here. And again, that goes back to, if you're not tuned in, if you're not dialed in 2020 fucking 3, you're lost. You're lost. You're not going to know who the fuck to trust.
That's true.
And
if you take the Kagan water situation, it's funny because the star card, the purity as well. This is a card of purity too.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, so with the astrology thing to connect it, it's like, it's a sound wave. The same sound wave that you could turn into an 8, like infinity, right? So we always go, if you ever see the light of the sun and what it looks like, if you were to take snapshots of the sun, it forms the same 8, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you follow the pattern. So it's a pattern. When people start getting off this is a good one. Is it the zodiac signs or constellations that rule the sign, or is it the planets? The planets rule the zodiac. So if the planets rule the zodiac, like Uranus rules Aquarius, not Aquarius rules Uranus. Uranus is the planet, it's home, and it's the lord of Aquarius. The sun is the divine lord of Leo. So it's not the other way around. So people get lost in the zodiac. They've already lost astrology because that's not where the power comes from. It's the planets. And what do we see on the planets? Same ecliptic line. To see a planet, they follow the same line in our ecliptic, which you just go out, which obviously, ironically, is another 23-degree things. Or what is it? 23 chromosomes that are in the egg and the sperm that have to meet together, right? Everything comes back to that 23, but that's what's so interesting, right? So it's like, okay, if the planets rule, and the only way you can see a planet, it's on the same line as where the sun and the moon. So at night, wherever the moon is, you'll see the planets on that same line that the sun is in the day. It's the same view. It never changes. There's only one viewpoint that you can see. Everything else beyond is just fucking junk. Because you're not getting any insight, and that's where there's no patterns happening. It's just random, right? So like when a comet comes in, it doesn't come in on that ecliptic line. It comes in fucking way above the solar system, like comes down and passes the sun and then just exits out at a different velocity. That's an anomaly, right? As a comet. But a planet is going around the sun. It is literally always going to be seen on the same ecliptic as the sun, the moon, or if you're a flat earther, it's only on the ecliptic, okay? Or if you're I'm a crater Earth person, but the wobble is what you pay attention to. And that's the other weird thing is like, what if those zodiac signs are all a projection? Because we don't really know what we live on, right? So would you follow the zodiac signs and the constellations, or would you follow the planets? And even if those are a projection, at least they're showing a pattern. The constellations aren't doing something. They might have there's some fixed stars that define them that are unique and give it extra energy to understand, which are very powerful. Like Algol, to me, it's really special. It's a binary star that flickers different periods of light at different times. And one star blinks and then the other one blinks. Mm-hmm. But it's like, or Regulus that sits on the ecliptic is the only one that's right on the ecliptic. That's the heart of Leo. Like, psh, that's why Leo gets that Regulus lion energy. So the stars do help the zodiac sign, but it's the planets that define them, though.
Well, the perspective I always took it, I could be wrong on this, but the way I've always looked at it is the gravitational pull between the Earth and the Sun. That's what I always thought it was. Now, whenever I started hearing planets, like I'm not an astrologer for anybody that doesn't know. I really don't know much about actual astrology, what's happening in the sky. The only thing I know is energy and energy behavior. So the energy that is influencing the planet right now, what fucking day is it? Is it Taurus season? Or Gemini?
We're in Gemini.
We're in Gemini now. Okay, yeah. So Gemini energy, the way that energy behaves, the way that energy influences people. Like if you were born, and I look at it like you're under the influence of an energy. Like, because people say, there's no two Geminis that are alike, or there's no two Scorpios that are alike. And that's just like saying, yeah, well, you take two people and give them both a 6-pack of beer. They're different people, but I can tell you've been drinking beer.
Right.
Now you give those two people a 5th of whiskey, I can tell you've been drinking whiskey.
Right.
You're different people.
Right.
So that's the way I look at your astrological energies.
Well, you just said it, right? You said you study the energies, and you said you study the energies of the planet.
Okay.
Well, if we study astrology, we study the energies of the planet. That defines the sign. It rules.
So it's the planet, and it's
the planet that rules the sign.
Okay.
It's not the sign that rules the planet.
No, I was thinking that it was the energy of the sun and the earth, like the position of the sun.
Exactly. So, but that's the whole point, though, is that you're focused still on the energies of the sun or the planet, not the zodiac constellations.
Yeah.
So that's where the debate, or where people get all tripped up, is they've given their power away to the place that doesn't define the power. The power defines by the planet that defines the home in which it rules. That's where you get rulerships. That's why you get lords, which is ironic that we use those in society today or in all antiquity, or right? Like the ruler of that land, the lord of the land. It's the planet that rules the sign. These are all, it's everywhere. Or on the horizon is Horus's zone, horizon, right? That's where we get our understanding of time, is where is our hour? Where is Horus, hour, on the horizon? So the whole time has been defined. And that's the problem with society today, is people aren't living in this, right? So they don't even understand what they're even in, because it's right in front of them, even though they're saying it every day. Like, what hour is it? Well, I always say, I always look up at the sun. Because I'm always like, oh my gosh, yeah, look at, like right now it's almost summer. So it's been nice because it's been 7:30, still light outside, be in the backyard to work. I love that shit. But I don't need a watch for that. I don't need to go look at my iPhone as a calendar. It's just a natural thing you can feel, that you can connect with. That's the star card. And it goes into that in every spiritual way, especially when you talked about energies. Because if you're in a place where you can't see the energetic patterns, there's something about true source energy and divine energy for all manifestation. It has to have a pattern. It has to have something that continually evolves, but has a constant of an understanding. Does that make sense? It has a constant of this works, and it continually evolves, and it still has a thread of a line that still is common, and it can evolve, but it's got that. It's like understanding what feels good and bad, although that can get tricky for some people, though, because they can get twisted and forget about, same thing with the zodiac, right? Putting the zodiac before the planets.
Yeah.
Sometimes they could put some situation and put that before what the actual rulership is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people are too quick to judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell. That's a big piece of advice that I give to my clients all the time, is that you don't ever want to judge what's happening right now. I promise you, no matter what you're going through right now, I don't care what it is, 5 years from now, you'll be looking back at it feeling different about it.
Oh, yeah.
And we are so quick to want to judge, you know, why this is happening. And I can't, how many times, okay, here's a good example. And I like telling this story. I'll never forget when I got my heart broke for the first time. I was 14 years old. Did I tell you this story?
No.
I was 14 years old. I was in like the 8th grade and I got my first little girlfriend. And I was so in love, dude. And we dated for like 6 months and then she broke up with me. And dude, I'm going to tell you what, my poor little pea-picking 14-year-old heart was in pieces, dude. My world was fucking over. And not too long after that, she started dating this other dude. Maybe, I think within the same year, somewhere in there. And keep in mind, I was 14 then, I'm 35 now. They're still together to this day. And they have 1 or 2 kids together. And every now and then I'll see that, like scrolling through Facebook, and I'll be like, oh my God, I am so fucking glad.
Yes.
I was this close to being that guy. That's what I thought I wanted. Thank you so much, universe, for not giving me what I thought I wanted. You know, and it's a perfect example, kind of to trail off a little bit of what you was saying of you know, the way people can get caught up and looking at it the wrong way. Whenever something happens right now, you may think that it means something. You maybe think that it's a bad thing, and it's a fucking blessing in disguise, you know?
That's totally the star card. Like, the tower looks great, but fucking doesn't turn out to be. And my story is, I'm in the old school. I'm going to be 39 in July, even though to me, I still feel like I'm 10. But fucking, it was so crazy because I was in the days where I had to go walk to ask the first girl to the dance, and she lived down the street. So I walked to her house, knocked on her door. Her dad answered. I asked her, I want to take you to the dance, 7th grade. And she went, no. I went, oh, okay. And I had to do the walk of shame home. I was so embarrassed. It was the first time I'd ever asked anybody, let alone also been rejected. So the first time's a rejection. And I remember that walk home. And I remember being like, oh man, like I'm never going to be able to find anybody, right?
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, oh, thank God it was never her. You know what I mean? Like, but you know what? That's the other part is where we hit and miss in life. We learn, we have to grow. And the star card is our best moment of where we can be humble. It is the card where we can be like, you know what? There's some lesson here. And I'm going to take that lesson with me. And I'm going to move forward. Or when you choose not to, that's a star card reverse. Like you still haven't, it feels like a fresh start. You're not moving forward because you haven't found what the meaning is yet that it brought you to this place. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard one because it could look like, but everything's good. I've got everything under my, and it's like something that's always right under your nose. Like, well, like I get this one a lot. It's like, well, yeah, I'm ready for, I found this person, we're going well and all that. And then I'll be like, oh, like, and I'll be in the reading and I'll look at the astrology. I'm like, but what happened with the relationship you started in this year? But my marriage? I'm like, yeah. When did you guys get divorced? Like, oh, no, we're still married. I'm like, star card reverse. Like, you're right there. You're ready to go. But that doesn't matter, though. I'm like, yeah, it matters. You haven't left your old commitment. Mm-hmm. It's just a piece of paper. It's not just a piece of paper. Exactly.
It's an energetic tie. A lot of people... that's one thing that I probably have to tell 95% of my clients is that, and I'll get this question all the time. How does John feel about me? How does Joe feel about me? How does Robbie feel about me?
And Billy.
Is anybody new coming in? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're still energetically tied to 3 or 4 other people and you're wondering what new is coming in? You got to get off that frequency first.
Yeah.
That's what happens when people, and you've probably seen it happen, especially when doing this kind of work, people will keep repeating the same cycle. They'll keep meeting the same demon in a different body over and over and over because they're not changing frequencies.
Right.
Like if you look at it, if you look at a frequency bandwidth, like it's like this is one frequency and here you are. And while you're in this frequency, you're only going to attract people on the same frequency. The frequency, the vibration manifests the outcome. So if I'm on this frequency and I attract a person into my life, that frequency is going to manifest between the two of us and it's going to determine the outcome. So if I get with this person and then we come together and we become energetically entangled, then I just walk away from them. It doesn't matter if I get on a plane and fly to the other side of the country. I'm still tied to them.
Yep.
There's still unfinished business. So if I'm still tied to that person, I'm still on that same frequency. So
well, and then there's always the common denominator of all the guys that you had mentioned for this scenario, right? It would be like they all have something in common, like a trauma bond. Like, well, we were at parties and we had either A, we both cheated, or we were cheated on. So, you know, and you could see that common thread too, right? So the star card's that one where there are patterns in life, like you just said, the cycle of being in having some bad demonic cycle that we're in our lives. However, it might be a demon of energy or just being in a shitty cycle. But there's also a positive cycle happening. It's just whether or not you're going to be on that frequency or the other. The star card's like, you are done with that old frequency. There's not even another option. That's the hard part about the star card is I always have a lot of empathy when I see it because it's like there's an empathetic moment to be about whatever the person went through when that card pops up usually too. It's like, man, whatever you went through, at least pay attention to that and change that pattern and frequency range to the one that actually is divine for you. That, I mean, like it's hard, but it's not hard because gosh, sitting in a horrible cycle is the worst.
Yeah.
And we have all of our own little cycles we're running all the time subconsciously. So it's like right when you get really good at one is when the other one that you thought you had under control is not, that you got to work on that one. So there's no moment where it's like, I have every single one working out. That would scare me because then that would probably mean that you're done here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And not only that, but balance too. Like I always look at things from a perspective of balance. So when things start going really, 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 really good, I'm a little bit freaked out. But now on my path, I know that, you know, okay, well, I need to do something. I need to challenge myself. I need to do something difficult because things are going way too good. And if things are going way too good for way too long, that means there's a tidal wave of negativity coming. So I got to go balance this out myself. So let me go to the gym and rep it out and tear my body to pieces, or, you know, put myself under some kind of stress, some kind of challenge to balance that energy out so that tidal wave will die down, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, people, that's another question I get sometimes is, you know, why is it that every time everything is going good, something comes and rips it all away? And it's like the law of balance.
Yeah. I think getting too comfortable too when it's going good.
Yeah.
That's always a moment where it's like, keep going. People get to like a point where it's like, I've reached my comfort zone. Yay, I'm good. And then that's right when, okay, you're just going to make it to where it reminds me of like life is a flowing thing. The universe is moving. Every part of Earth is changing and moving. Nothing is just sitting still.
Yeah.
And that's where we get caught up. It reminds me of like being on a lily pad for too long. Like a frog can chill there for a second, but is already like, this is nice. I'm catching my breath. This is great. Okay, I got to jump to the next one. Doesn't mean relationship or something like that. It just means that your energy and the frequency is going with the transmission of the frequency that's evolving and moving. It's like, you know, or you could sit in a frequency and that's great. But if you want to evolve, because this is also a card of evolution, right? It's like where we actually come to our evolutionary moment of a positive evolution. And even though the back has got some negative to it, it's where that shit it's the shower card. It's the card where, you know, I always do intentional showers, like where I energetically, when I do my cold shower, I release all that shit from the past and I intend the future. And I do a prayer every day of like, protect me. And I think of all my family and all my friends. And then, you know, but I also, whatever happened, I ask for forgiveness. That's what I do. I accept myself for it. And I'm going to be better today. And I move forward. That's the best part about the stars. Like, it's a new moment. It's a new day. You know what I mean? Like, you could do whatever that's most beautiful in your life. But that's the hard part about this card is if you're dealing with guilt, resentment, this is not the card to bring that energy into. This is the card to exit out of that energy, you know?
Yeah. Transmute it. Transmute the energy. This is where we have to start consciously using the energies to create new things. Like, you've heard everybody fucking say it. I don't care if it's a spiritual public figure, anybody who is on any kind of intention. They don't even have to be spiritual. I don't care if fucking David Goggins, he talks about it all the time. And I don't even think he believes in law of attraction. You don't have to believe in it. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. Energy transmutation. I don't know if you know anything about David Goggins.
A little.
I really look up to that dude. Like, he lived a really traumatic childhood, abusive, the whole nine. And then he ended up like becoming a Navy SEAL. This motherfucker runs like 200-mile races.
Yeah,
dude.
his book's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and he has the same message. My traumatic past was training ground for me. I took all that pain and I turned it into fuel. You know what he does? He'll go through his comments section and screenshot all the haters and all the trolls. And he'll go through and he'll record. He'll read the comments of haters and he'll record it on his voice recorder and he'll listen to that while he's running. And I'm like, that's energy transmutation. That's exactly what that is. I used to do the same thing and I didn't even know. Like, I would do that sometimes on a really lazy fucking day where I'm bored and I'm like, man, you know what? I got to do this video today, but fucking bored. I don't want to. And then I'd be like, no, you know what? I go looking, scroll through my comments and find a fucking hater. And I'd be like, oh, I piss you off, don't I? Oh, you want to see me fail, don't you? All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do 10 times the work that I was going to do because I know that you're watching and you just can't fucking stand seeing me do good. And I would get up and I would triple my fucking income that day. It's called energy transmutation. Yep. Or say, for example, well, I've told you the story about what fueled me to stay on the manifestation path was being rejected. Right. I was obsessed with making every woman who rejected me feel stupid. Energy transmutation. You take whatever energy that you're dealt with, whether it's some idiot throwing hate at you or somebody who rejected you or somebody who bullied you and told you that you wasn't good enough, whatever the energy is, you got to figure out how to stuff that in the fuel tank and use that to create something new. And the transmutation process is once I have used that energy to create this new awesome fucking thing, now I express gratitude for the experience. Now I'm fucking thankful that I have haters. Do you know how much of my success I owe to my haters? I probably wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for fucking haters. Like, I'm thankful for all the women who rejected me. Right. I would not be here today if I wasn't rejected by so many women. So that's...
Well, and I think that's a good point because it could be dangerous for some people using energy transmutation in a negative way, taking something negative and trying to get a negative outcome like you see haters do, right? Like, I hope you fail. Yeah. That's not what's going to manifest. It's probably going to be the opposite. It's probably going to be you failing more. Yeah. Right? Like, so it's like one of those energies to where it's like the only thing that manifests too is in divine alignment that is positive. And we're all not perfect and we all fucking have those moments and we have to learn. But you're right, the gratitude's important. It's almost like the tower card before it. You have to have gratitude that the tower brought you to this place to transmute it into something new. Like that's the best part of this card, but that's also a good reminder is it's gratitude, but it's also what is the intention of what the energy is that I'm going to intently put out there. It has to be in alignment. And there is no such thing as if you actually, because this card is one that connects to astrology and the universe, right? You don't see Jupiter being like, I want to be on the other side of the sun, which takes 6 years, right? Now, there's an acceptance of how the universe works and that it's grateful because if it did go too fast, it would throw this whole universe into a fucking tizzy. The amount of gravitational pull. Jupiter's becoming a star, by the way, so it's like fucking almost there, you know what I mean? I'm not saying in our lives, but you know, it's expanding so much and it's even changed color so much just in our lifetimes, you know, that it knows its intent and it's not going to put its own, you know, buoyancy and big energy that takes 12 years to revolve around the sun to be like, I'm going to go and transmute I wish I was faster.
Yeah.
And put that into the universe. Like, it's not going to get there. It's like, no, I'm happy and accepting of what I am because I defend off crazy asteroids. I defend off crazy things that come into our solar system, and it reflects it out because the gravitational pull's so great. It's like having a second star in many ways. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like when we use the universe's basic, super simple, clean, fresh understanding, it helps us.
Yeah.
But even when you look up at the stars, it's not like you look up and the sun's wanting to go destroy the planets. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It would kill. That's the last thing it wants to do, right? The planets also gauge their energy to the sun. Like, Mercury likes to be hot, but fucking Pluto don't. Like, Pluto's like, fuck this shit. You know what I mean? That's where you get the planets rule the signs, right? Like Scorpio is more secretive and private the way that Pluto is.
Yeah.
Not because it's a Scorpion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's actually the energies of the planets and how they play out, right? So if you think of the energy mutation, because mutation to me is similar to transmutation, but I think it would be like this, like the mutation element that we go through in the universe as we are all evolving as beings, and think of all the civilizations and everything that's gone here. There's been that one constant where they're evolving too, but they're still staying in their constant flow with the universe. Like Uranus, we find out it solar flares now like the sun, right? It's like, of course Uranus would do that. It's opposite Aquarius, Leo. The sun, Leo, right? Like fucking, it has solar flares. So does Uranus, of course.
Wow.
And Uranus is the only planet that doesn't want to be like the other planets and is tilted completely the other direction. And literally has more connected energies like a sun than the other planets, believe it or not. It just does it in its own way. So it's like, and that's the way that Leo and Aquarius are. We're going to do things our own way, but we want to help the collective in our own different ways. So that like when you start using the tarot helps a lot, right? It's like, geez, it's such an easy human element to be able to look at these pictures and see how much is going on here. I just, I always have laughed because there's it's like a flamingo or something up on the tree, there's color in it, there's definitely a lot of beautiful things to create. And it's like a watcher. It's like, they always say that if we want to get into the starseed shit, right, with the reptilians and the Palladians, it's always been the birds against the reptiles, and it's always the birds. Whenever you see the birds, you don't see no snake in this one. You don't see there's no darkness in this card. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the interesting part is what we can really grow. And it's not like anything's come to its fruition in this card or come to its end. If anything, this is the beginnings and the freshness. And it's really the card that is the closest to the fool. Like it's the fool that's been humbled that now sees what's really going on. Mm-hmm. Where the fool doesn't see what's going on. It's glorious to come into this life. It kind of reminds me when we were like in school and we recess, and da-da-da. And then, when you get to the star, it is your awakened moment of like, whoa, you look at everything much differently now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear a lot of people talk about how they go crazy when they awaken spiritually. And I was the opposite. I was fucking crazy. I had so many screws loose. I had so many problems. It's embarrassing to look back on. And then as I started to spiritually awaken, my head began to level out. Once I started hearing conspiracies, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. And once I started hearing the truth and then I started leveling out. And it's kind of like opposite for me, because everybody's like, oh, I'm spiritually awakening. You see the memes, they float around on Facebook where it's something to the effect of what you think a spiritual awakening is going to be like, and it'll show somebody meditating and glowing. What a spiritual awakening is actually like, somebody going crazy, pulling their hair out. And it's like, it wasn't like that.
I like the roller coaster one.
Yeah, with the kid.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it wasn't like that for me. For me, the spiritual awakening was like, I got shit out onto this crazy fucking planet. Feel so out of place, tried to fucking leave desperately, wasn't allowed to. Then once I started awakening, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Now I still am a weird fucking person, and I have a really weird life, and there's nothing normal about me, but I am the closest to blending in that I ever have been in my entire life. Once I'm awakened and I can take a look at it, this stupid fucking game and this goofy ass movie that we're watching, that's the media and real life, and I can look at it and I just understand that it's all just a big show. It's all a big game, and I don't know. I find a peace and a comfort in it. You know.
Yeah, because the conspiracy is no longer a conspiracy. It's happening in front of our faces. So it's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Right? The conspiracy has happened. It's happening in front of our faces. So there is no more conspiracy theory anymore. It's actually the conspiracy is happening.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's whether you see that, because what you have to have as your reflective backboard is a divine guidance handbook spiritually, that there is no one literally. It's written all over the universe. Right? So it's like, to be able to see through that. That's what's kind of cool, is I think you just made me think of this card as like, there's a spiritual x-ray vision with this card too. Because if you're able to see, there could be a million things happening in this card, but what she's focused on is the stars, the freshness of where she's around, pouring her water, which we know in the cups, right, is emotional. Like, okay, been through these emotions, but there's a positive emotional flow. Like, all right, I'm filled up with this fresh emotional energy. I've got out all that toxic emotional guilt, resentment, all the tower card shit, obsessive, where you hold on too much. She also has no problem being naked it represents the true meaning of herself. Like, I am truly just accepting who I am in this moment and with the universe. It's interesting with this card because it could have a city, it could have a million things going on, but she still sees that. You could be in the middle of New York City, and it's not because you're meditating, and you can be, I'm not putting that down, but it's like, it's not because of the ideas, right? It's because you actually have the x-ray. I've been in the middle of New York City and many times in Manhattan and done shows there and have had the best spiritual convos and been out and been on the 88th floor of this place and the 17th floor there, the 17th card. Which, that's funny. They talk about Q in this card. I know this is the Q card. It also is the XRP Q card too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But that's a whole other fucking thing, But about the whole new, financial system. Mm-hmm. But that's the whole point, though. Is that there's a spiritual X-ray. It's like a Superman X-ray card. Really, this is more powerful than who you think you might be as some superhero or something, you know what I mean? Or even the emperor. I feel like this is more. The emperor is very earth-based, but like the star is got more energy, and the star comes after the emperor, right? So it's like, and the emperor does end up going just like the empress, they end up going into the tower.
Yeah, it's kind of like, remember how we were talking a few episodes ago about like memes and petroglyphs and hieroglyphs and whatnot, and like the connection that I made was that it's a lot like telepathy. That card to me is kind of like it represents a telepathic download
with the universe, right? Like, direct line.
Yeah, to where it's like, if you were to try to put it in human language, like you take this whole concept, and if we were to try to talk about it in human language, it would be a 20, 30, 40-minute broken down lecture to explain this picture, where you get that downloaded in an instant.
Right. There is no time to define how fast it comes in, because it's too fast for time to even count.
Yeah.
And the amount of information that comes in, like you said, I think that's actually being nice. I think it's more like it would take lifetimes of Encyclopedia Britannicas of every edition, and you still wouldn't be able to get the amount of information you get in that.
Well, yeah,
flash. That's what I'm just trying to say.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's crazy about the download. Is like, not only do you see, but you get the info that is already known. It's not like you have to sort through a file cabinet and then research it or read the cliff notes or do a paper on it or something. It's like it's like how they do in the Matrix movie when they plug them in, right? To download, right? When Neo gets in there and he's like, I don't know anything. And there's like, oh, you're going to learn this. And he's like, does he like it? Yeah, he likes it. But it's like, that was their example of showing people when they get connected to the universe, you download anything that you want. This earth is a living library. It's the storage of the whole universe of what's here. That's what makes this place so special. That's why there's so many dark energies trying to take this place over. It's only if you allow their energy to. And they want to get you in a tower and make you hate going through the tower mode opposed to seeing this on the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? This is another funny little sidebar too, that apparently Earth is also the library of plants.
Yes.
That's fucking cool. Like there are beings from all over the damn fucking universe who travel here from who knows where just to look at all of our fucking plants. Because I think we're like the only planet that has all these different species of plants. Like if you hear some people who have been like taken to other planets or had their consciousness downloaded into a clone on another planet, like I heard this guy talking about that they took his consciousness and put it into a clone on a different planet. And he said he got out and walked around and it looked very Earth-like, you know, but the sun wasn't as hot or whatever their star was. I don't think it was the actual sun, but that star wasn't as hot. It was really bright, but it was comfortable. And he said, I looked around and there wasn't very much plant life. There were a couple of trees and that was about it. And I think that's so fascinating because I think plants are fucking awesome. I don't know why. I don't know why.
That's what makes us so lucky to be here is the terrain of this planet, whether it's the deserts, even there's plants in the desert. Underwater, just plants in the whole ocean. That's the other kind of interesting part of this card is, it looks like it's like a little pool of water, but it could be the whole ocean. Like, you know, and that's the other, that's the unexplored place, right? Too, is like, all the UAP stuff coming out right now, most of the UFOs come out of the ocean is what they're saying. You know what I mean? It's not like they're coming from, oh my God, they're coming from another star system and they're coming out of the ocean.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, oh. And I think that's the cool part about the star card is like, as we look above, so as below. There's that expression, right? As above, as below, so below. Well, I always tell people, I'm like, so people look up to like, and this is interesting about the manifestation thing with the star card. It's like, oh, I'm trying to connect with above and the people above. Well, because below is so crazy. I'm like, well, as above, so below. So when it's crazy down here, it's just as crazy up there. That even up there right now is crazy. If it's as above and even the planets are going crazy and even the transits are going crazy, then down here is going crazy too. So people go, I just want to go up there. I'm like, well, it'd be the same energy. That's how aligned things are. They're going through the same shit upstairs as down here.
Yeah, you know, that's so funny you said that. Leah said something to me the other day. We of course, you knew we took a trip to Louisville,
right,
for my kids to visit their mom, and on the way back, we were on the plane at nighttime, and she said that she had this epiphany where she looked out the window at nighttime on a plane and as above, so below. It looked the same. I look up and I see all these little lights. I look down and I see all these little lights. She said, what if, I don't think she's like actually really.
Yeah, she's a bit sad. She's having a good time exploring.
Yeah, what if up there, it's just a bunch of houses or buildings or something to that effect. I'm not quoting her verbatim, but you know, something to that effect. She said, I thought as above, so below. So I look down and all I see is a bunch of little lights, and I look up and all I see is a bunch of little lights. What if what's really up there is very similar to what's really down here?
Or if we're made of stars, the stardust, we keep looking up there for some eternal like angel or being. What if we're them? You go up there and I always say it's an empty room and they got a sign like, we'll be back after the light work's done. Enjoy the coffee and watch the fucking show if you want.
Yeah.
And you could have been living the show or you could have been just watching it. So a lot of people like want to go to these etheric realms to be there when they don't realize like, if it's as above, so below, and we're channeling this and we're doing this work, then that means as above is been brought below. We're the ones we're looking for. you're always the one you're looking for in your life. Mm-hmm. That's the craziest part of the whole thing, is like all the information and God and everything is living within you. So it's like that star moment is seeing the reflection of yourself and knowing there is no translator needed, like on Google. Like, I can't read this language. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're not into astrology, if you're not into tarot, if you're not, you could be doing the frequency and energy sources in it's all different languages to me. But we all have the same common understanding. But a lot of people are like, because I feel sad because a lot of people think, I just want to get off this place and I want to go somewhere else. And I'm like, you don't realize that when you get there, it'll be worse than DMV, because it'll be a DMV line and there'll be nobody at the, we're all here right now. Yeah. All the light workers, we're all here right now. We're here now. This is where we're at. Like there's nobody running the show up there anymore. You know, we're all down here to do this, to change this place. That's part of the program's change that needs to be done, because the program has failed it. So a lot of people want to run upstairs, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if I'd run up there right now. It's empty. Because you can feel there's a void, because there's an X factor. There's something beyond that we're trying to understand at this moment, and we're all trying to avoid the chaos. But it's also a card where you accept whatever is happening. If the universe is chaotic, you learn to accept the chaos. That finds peace. It's a card of peace. I love that you brought that up. Like, instead of trying to revolt against everything, oh my God, you know what I mean? What is that frequency going to do? It's just going to add more of that fucking chaos, right? Where you're trying, whatever you even say, whatever you're trying to avoid is going to fucking just, whoop, it's going to come right at you. And that could be great things, and it could be the fucking worst chaotic things too.
Yeah, that right there, what you just said, it could be great things. It could. Once you do enough soul searching and you go inside and you start becoming familiar enough with yourself and how you operate and your energy, and you can figure out how to flip that switch to where you are energetically trying to avoid what you want. Once you figure that out, you'll work miracles in your fucking life. Miracles.
It's like, I don't know why, but it's like, you know, if you're somebody who like lives on a street and you're like, I just don't want to deal with the neighbor today. Guess what? The second you just say that to yourself, that neighbor is showing up.
Yeah.
Because that's your intention. You're putting it out there. I don't want him to show up. Oh, you want him to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? Right? Or the best is when people freak the fuck out about like an Amazon package or an email to get back or whatever, right? The fact that you just keep doing it makes it delayed more.
And I explain why, in that video, The Science of Manifestation. Think about that. Did you pay attention to what I was saying? Yes. I'm not going to give it away here.
Of course.
But yes.
Which you can get on High Vibe forever.
Yeah. You can get that video on High Vibe, but that's no accident when that happens. And I used to play around with it too. And it would piss me off. When I lived in Vegas, I lived, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Vegas area, but I was in Henderson, right near Seven Hills. Like right there where Mike Tyson lives. And there was this fucking intersection with this stoplight. And if you caught this light red, I swear to fucking God, this light would be red for 5 fucking minutes. You would be sitting there forever. The minute I pull my phone out and start reading a text message, bam, it would change. And I'm like, what the fuck? Gotta put my car in gear real quick and I almost kill the engine because I'm pulling the clutch out too fast. And I'd be like, what the fuck? It just turned red. That thing usually sits there. And I'm like, oh yeah, the science of manifestation. So I started playing around with, okay, well, I need to really distract myself. And every single time I would catch that light red, I'd be like, okay, now let me read a text message. Bam, it would change. But if you sit there and watch it, 5 minutes. Yeah. You're sitting there for 5 minutes. And that's no accident. That is no accident. Why, when you sit around and wait, things get delayed and it takes longer. There's a reason for that. Your energy affects the quantum field in a very specific way, which I break down on my series, Mastering the Matrix. So just know, though, that if you're experiencing that, no, you do not have bad luck. People ask me that all the time. I think I'm cursed. No, you're not cursed. You just don't know how your energy works,
Yeah, or I mean, I'm an astrologer, right? And like, oh, it's because it's Mercury. It was Mercury retrograde, and it came in that, and that's why it's delayed. I'm like, no, it's. I'll look at their chart, and I'll be like, but like right now, we just had it in Taurus, right? So it's like learning about to be patient. It's like you grow trees and you grow plants, like it's happening. Enjoy that it's happening.
Yeah.
And the more you just let go, it's going to grow bigger, faster, stronger, taller, everything. Like just it's a form of spiritual trust too. That's the other part of the star.
Yes.
It's a 100% commitment to without question. Not like she's sitting there questioning the stars because she's not even looking at them. That's the ironic part. She knows they're there. She's already so connected that she's not even needing to like, let's get a telescope out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like second nature. That's the other part of it. But there's zero doubt, there's zero questions, and there's 100% trust within the spiritual divine nature. There is no, that's the hard part too, is like, I mean, I don't know what it would feel like anymore because it's been so long since they questioned the divine work, right? Or the light work, when you get over a decade of doing it every day, you're like, I don't even know what it would be like. That would be pretty crazy though. That would be my tower moment. I would be, but that would be wild to not trust how this process works in the universe. And that would be, so when this card comes up, it's like, well, it's a good sign that you're at that place. If it's reversed, well, maybe that's the issue. It could be as simple as that. Like, do you trust the universe, or are you looking at the universe like looking at a dog and trying to teach it a new trick? Right? Like, it's not going to happen, especially if it's an old dog. Not every dog's going to learn a trick. You know what I mean?
I just did a video on that. I think I put it on my shorts feed. I know I put it on Instagram, or did I? I don't know, but about trusting yourself. It seems like we're born almost with an instinct. I don't think it's an instinct. I think it's programming, but either way, it's like we all have this like instinct that the answers are out here somewhere. Somebody else has the answer to my questions. Somebody else has it all figured out. And it's like we put these people on pedestals. Celebrities and athletes and doctors and scientists and this, that, and the third. And it's like all these people that you're looking up to, that you put up on these big pedestals, the only difference between them and you is they trust themselves. Somebody like me, people come to me for the answers to their questions. And it's like the only difference between me and you is I trust myself. When I flip those cards, because you could flip cards. You could get a deck of tarot cards for $20 on Amazon, and you could flip them.
11 now.
$11, yeah. But if you flip those cards and you lay them out, are you gonna trust yourself to be able to know what that deck is telling you? Yeah. Most people won't. They'll want to come to somebody else who trusts themselves. Self-trust. And it goes back to, we talked about this a couple episodes ago about what Billy Carson was saying about the way he words it is a worship gene, whatever he means by that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's something to do with our DNA that was manipulated, that you can turn this gene on in our DNA, and somehow it makes us want to worship something out here. And you can turn it off, and that shuts off, and we go back within.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it from militaries, and even if you think of thousands of years ago, slaves that build these monuments to, right? There's a gene of the worship that's just like, I'm going to do whatever it is and not even define who I am or know what I am. I'm defined by this outside entity of myself, right? Yeah. That's really what it is. And that's hard though, because I feel like this is where, when it talks about that self-trust, right? Like you brought up with tarot or with any person who, it's not even like about somebody has the answers. Somebody who's good is going to be a good. People come to readers or in this light work to reflect off each other and to see and to give. And it's okay to have not trust issue, but want clarity from a different point of view. Those are the best readings because those are the ones where it's like, I'm understanding it, but there's just something like, there's one little star missing and to put this thing together? Because this is an Aquarius card. That's why Aquarius rules the divination tools that actually advance people forward. So it's like, it's one thing to be like, okay, an athlete can inspire me, but like, is it unless I'm going to be a baseball player, you know, it's like, or, you know, just like I'm learning courage or something. Yeah, it's nice to watch Shohei Ohtani fucking pitch and fucking hit and be better than everybody right now. But it's like, it's not that we have a question of trust, because I'm trying to flip it to where it's like, it's okay to want a reflective element, because this star card has a reflection, and that's what we get through people, right? We get through others, but it has to be in that reflective element of like, we're on the same image that we are all connected. We're on the same download. We're on the same self-trust of the universe, and reflecting in that way, because we can go so much farther when we reflect through others and understand and get insights from others that have a unique perspective. As you said at the beginning of this podcast with this card about Aquarius, we're all unique people, but there is a common denominator. And I think that that's where this card is, that common denominator meeting the uniqueness, which in division always equals a weird fucking number. That doesn't mean that's a bad number, though. You know what I mean? But because we have a common denominator, whatever the outcome is still going to have a common denominator at the end. It's when there's no common denominator, right? If it's somebody like, I just want to get a reading because I want to see if you're bullshit, right? That's not a common denominator.
I love those.
You know?
Yeah, I love those. And well, I tell you, the one that bugs me is when people come and they say, just whatever I need to know. No. Whatever comes through. I'm like, do you go to a restaurant and walk up to the waiter and give him some money and say, just whatever you think I should eat? No, come on, man. You gotta have some kind of incentive here. You don't need to know fucking anything. What do you want to know?
Right.
You're welcome. The universe is here to grant you any knowledge that you wish. You know, I think what it is that people are embarrassed, maybe. Possibly.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like that's part of our job too, because I get that all the time, and I have no problem doing it, because actually I prefer that. I'm like, hold on, here we go, boom. I'll go. I know right where the spot is, and I think that's what it is people get shy or nervous or embarrassed or it's suppressed. You know, we deal with suppression, we deal with repression in this world, right? Where people suppress things for so long that they actually have suppressed even knowing how to express it or see it, or it's repressed to where they don't even know it's there, but they know there's something there, but they don't know what it is. So I feel like in those situations, like it's usually a suppressed and a repressed, really deep situation that they're actually calling for help for, right? Like what's coming through, because I'm trying, and that's the problem is when you say try, it means the person's trying and they're not getting anywhere because they're trying. You know, you're doing, you're intending, you're directing, you're wanting, you're making a noun out of something. You're not verbing this life. You know?
Yeah, that's what makes me a weird tarot card reader, is where you say you prefer that. I don't. I'm the type, I primarily specialize in manifestation. So if I ask you...
Well, I think, I'm going to be honest though, I think that in tarot, 100%, a question is the most, is needed. Well, I don't think when you're just throwing tarot to just be like random.
Yeah.
It can get too far stretched. At least in astrology, there's like I know when they were born. I know that their unique progressed secondaries are here, and I know that the solar arcs are here, and I know that where the planets are now, and I know that it's unique to them that Saturn's opposing their Saturn, and blah, 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 right? Like I can get to it really easy, you know? But in tarot, like, what? It's just like, what does the universe have to tell me right now? You're not fucking feeling satisfied in yourself, and you're definitely not feeling good within yourself. You don't believe you can manifest anything right now. And you don't feel beautiful. That's for damn sure. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and then that could go on and on and on, and then kind of reach a place. But when somebody has a question in tarot, that's where you can get to like, what's the spiritual block with it? What's the outcome? What's the situation like? That's where you can get much more. I feel like tarot was intended for targeting.
Yeah.
It literally was. It was intended for giving the human qualities, literally from all my research. It was literally to bring the divine into a human understanding in forms that spiritual divination at the time through the planets. And if you think of what the church was doing, where you didn't get a Bible, You didn't read it. You didn't even know how to read. You just listened to the preach. You listened to the priest in Latin, and you couldn't even fucking read Latin.
Yeah.
So that was your only place to go. It's not relatable if you would have gone to the back of the church and been like, yeah, here's the Bible and this is it in Latin. And then you'd be like, what in the fuck is this, right? So that's the same thing when it goes with astrology or psychic work or stuff. Like tarot is like, you could actually show somebody who's not. Tarot is the bridge to people on their wake up journey and all the way for people already how far advanced they are. It's the bridge.
Yeah.
It's the human bridge because you can relate with seeing she's comfortable. She's attracting in that even the bird wants to sit on her. She's not worried and she's okay with herself. She's okay with herself, right? It's like you can show that to somebody and help them see that picture. Whereas, it's when you're describing it, and then I look like a crazy person when I'm at these festivals in the middle of the night and I'm showing people this and how that, and like, wait, hold on 1 second. And then they get on their phone. I'm like, take off. No phones. No Google Map, Sky Map. Right? Because then it confuses them. I'm like, it's so easy to find the ecliptic. But, tarot is not, I think that even in tarot, I always like to get a question, or at least I'm using it as a confirmation to the astrology reading. Like, we saw this, let's see what it says. But there's still a meaning behind what I'm throwing the cards out for, not just like that's your day, 3 of Pentacles.
Yeah. Well, I'm the type, and I don't even know. Again, I still sometimes don't even understand why the universe made me a tarot reader, because with me, a lot of times, like a client can write. Well, I don't do the pre-recorded readings anymore, but when I did, I could read one paragraph of your situation or what you're struggling with or what happened. And we were talking about downloads a minute ago, like the star card.
Yes.
Bam. Everything downloaded as to how that situation manifested. There's been times, I'll be 100% honest. I don't do this all the time, but it does happen sometimes where you tell me what you're struggling with or what happened. I don't even need tarot cards. I flip them just for show. Bam, I get the download instantly. I know how this manifested. I know the energies involved as to how the energies came together, how the energies behaved, what they did, how they reacted, what manifested, and where you're at now. And if you don't get your energy in check, what's going to happen in the future, and how you should go about doing the energy work to get on a timeline that produces a positive outcome. That's the reason why I like to have a little bit of information.
Yeah.
Because like I know energy and how energy behaves. So you tell me like, me and this guy met back in 2010 and we hit it off immediately, and then he pulled back and blah, 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 blah. Bam. It's instant download.
Yep.
I immediately know the energies involved and what happened. And like I said, there's a lot of times I'll just flip the cards and all it does is just tell me what I already knew.
Right.
It just tells me exactly what I already knew, So that's the reason why I like to have a little info.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's astrology that's the one where it can help with the suppressed and the repression of like, I could see what you're not seeing right now because they're not literally looking at that alignment, right? Astrology is alignment. So it's like, did you know that you're in your progressed like Mercury stationing direct this year once in your life, right? Like this happened 40 or 30, this happened like 20 days after your birth. You're 20, like, and you were born when the day Mercury stationed retro, and now it's stationing direct here, the 21st day. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where it's like, I didn't even know that, Mm-hmm. That's where astrology comes in with that kind of stuff. It's very like, here, and it's very unique to the individual, like your own code. This is what the code's playing out right now. So I can be like, this is the slides that are playing, But that's why tarot is such a confirmation tool. I've always called it the ultimate confirmation tool, and I think that's what the star card is. It's the confirmation of the universe that you're on the divine path too. It's a card of like that you're at a moment where, hey, it's also a card of like, it's more than okay. It's not saying hey, it's gonna be okay. It's like, what do you mean? It's fucking fantastic.
It is okay.
Like it is okay. And,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. Go and to keep staying on this course. Not, is it going to be okay? Like, am I all right? Like, she's not in that question. She's in a balanced state too.
In the reverse is where
Yeah.
she's, the
Yeah,
negative
exactly.
outlook. Yeah.
Well, and it puts the star underneath too, in reversed, right? Puts her on top of the star. So it's like, not only is she not looking at it, but it's like it's underneath her. It's suppressing what the moment is, right? It's putting it underneath her. But, and it's also putting the water pouring on top of her. So she, it's like still drowning in the emotion.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks good. We're still married though, but this new person, fuck, man. It's that simple. That's the whole, I've always found the star card. It always is dealing with very deep, but simple things. It's like, it's always something, but to them, it's not simple if it's reversed. It's like, what do you mean I have to let this all the way go to move forward? It's like, you've already done it in every way. I mean, you're at the last moment where all you have to do, it's thinner than a fucking fishing line. Just like, you could use your fingernail and just cut it off, but you won't. People can get so far, like, I've done everything. I moved out. I did this. I did that. But just to do that last little snip, nope. And that's when the emotion's still, and that's when the star card doesn't deal with fear. So it's like, star card reverse is still dealing with the fear. And for us to get to where we want to be on our spiritual journeys, on our light working journeys, and even to accept being a star seed, a light worker, or somebody in this work, like, you can't have fear about that. We saw that with Dorian Virtue, like she obviously got all into it and then she let the fear get to her. And it was, it was during her Saturn return. It was when Saturn opposed her sun. It was crazy. It was like watching it happen in real-time astrology was like, oh, that's why she has sun opposed Neptune. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Neptune, Scorpio. Oh, okay. Yeah. Taurus. Like I was like, of course she's going to shift here. And I feel bad for her because I feel like, she shifted in such a way to where she can't go back. She can though, but she'll feel guilty. And then for the rest of her life, she's tortured with guilt that she'll go to hell for what she already did. And if she were to go back, right? Like it's a very Neptunian in opposition to the sun.
Yeah. Like we were saying earlier, that's what I'm foreseeing. Well, everything is changing, everything. And obviously, one of the things that those of us who are in the know are waiting on is a big crash. But it's not just the financial system. It's going to be everything. But one of the biggest things that I just wish would change so quickly is the fucking religion. I'm foreseeing, and I'm actually surprised at where we're at with it now, because I can remember 10 years ago when these concepts first started becoming mainstream with ancient aliens and whatnot. It was out there, but it wasn't really all that widely publicly accepted. I think most people who were into that, they were hush-hush and quiet about it and secretive about it. But now it kind of seems like it's coming out more and more and more that, oh yeah, according to the ancient texts, it was fucking beings from another planet. That's exactly what it was, and like the truth behind all these religions and the beings and the gods and the angels and what all that really was and what that fucking book that you worship is really saying for all that to actually come to light.
Right.
Well,
and I think, that's part of the end of the age of Pisces. You see the fish on people's scars, right? It's fucking Pisces.
Yeah.
The last 2,000 years has been about, even our calendar system, 2,000 years, right? It's like based off even, BC, before Christ, or I call it before COVID now. I forgot who told me that one, but it was hilarious. But, and then AD, after death, right? Like it's all based off this Piscean, which is the other home of Jupiter, that Jupiter rules, right? That is a belief, and that's the constructs of the belief systems going into an ethereal realm, but only in that one. And also what happens in Pisces is it's the widest space in the zodiac, and it can become so horizon, like too wide, and trying to slam it all into one thing. The universe is so wide, the spiritual is so wide, and it's about being open to all those things, and instead of it just being one place only, and it being one way only, because then that's going to be the problem with Saturn and Pisces right now, because Saturn's very like, play by these rules only, and this is the only way, and this is the only way you're going to get there. And so when it's in Pisces, it's confusing. And with Neptune and Pisces, last time Saturn and Neptune were in Pisces, like right now, was 1523, and that's when the heretics laws started, and that's when religion really kind of went off the rails, and which caused a Reformation. So like that already had begun in 1517 with Martin Luther, but really got more intense. And I think that's where people are not realizing right now is, a lot of people are going to fall into the religious thing. Like, it's going to double down harder than we've seen in our lifetime over the next year. And then it's going to go, like you said, about 5 years, I think you were telling me. It's exactly when there's going to be if you thought the Pope apologizing to every country about all the kids that's on constant tour, more than Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift, it'll be everybody on that tour like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for judging you. I'm so sorry for, thinking you weren't of God. That's the crazy part. Like, you're not of God because, and I have no problem. Like, I'm going to go speak at my buddy's funeral at the church. And I'm actually an ordained minister, but I'm a non-denominational. I've done so many weddings. I've done so many funerals. I've done so many prayer services. I've done all of that, but I do it still as an astrologer. Like, it's like, it definitely twists with people.
Wow. That's fascinating.
But it's like one of those things to where my families are Quakers, the original Quakers. So Quakers to be in Quakers, like they didn't believe in like converting people to a religion and letting people be who they are. And it was about everybody in the house of friends to be able to your light of God and channel whatever you feel out. And they would be in a circle and everybody would hear like, oh, this is what Rich is saying. This is what he's channeling of God. Let's all take whatever that is. It wasn't about just following this one way only. You know what I mean? It was about being, and Benjamin Franklin was a Quaker too. But a lot of people don't know that history or what was going on. And William Penn was too and got in trouble for it, So it's like, that it actually, Anne just actually wrote me, who's here on High Vibe and today. And she was thinking, she's like, man, it's reminding me of the Salem witch trials, That's when it got too crazy. And we were in Neptune and Pisces like we're in now. We just hit those degrees. And I thought it was crazy, but not. This is a good star card moment of like when Trump was saying witch hunts. I'm like, it's the exact place to the degree on a 165-year cycle of Neptune. 19 degrees Pisces is when 1692, 2 revolutions prior, was the fucking Salem witch trials. And he's saying it at the exact same time. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening is that, we're going to go through people starting to become so, I guess you could say anything other than religious phobic, to where it becomes so intense that people start, because everything is the devil to them. Everything is not, and that's what becomes scary is like, you're doing what they say is the devil, like, you know what I mean? By judging and wanting to outcast this and wanting to kill, stop that. And it becomes so paranoia. And really, it's just living in paranoia.
Yeah. It's narcissistic gaslighting. That's what this everything to do with everything that's been going on, especially here lately, has been narcissistic gaslighting. Like, for example, the racism thing, right?
Right.
Well, white people are racist. So because white people were racist in the past, now you're going to turn around and be racist against white people, and you're doing the same thing they were doing back then, but it's okay for you to do it now. Same thing with religion. Don't judge, and then it's like, well, you're judging me.
Right.
Like you're doing exactly what you're preaching against. And whether it's religion, whether it's race, whether it's that's the level of the brainwashing in today's day and age. Narcissistic gaslighting. It makes absolutely no sense. And I think, well, I don't know. One thing that I've noticed, everybody that I've met personally who falls into that trap was a victim of narcissistic abuse when they were a kid.
Right.
And I think that's the energetic pattern that they've been trying to, the domino effect they've been keeping going for decades and decades and decades, is they basically narcissistically abuse you and program you and brainwash you. So you narcissistically abuse your kids. And then that's just this generational train of people just being so lost and twisted up in this brainwashing where, you know, they're preaching a message that they're doing exactly what they're preaching against.
Well, I mean, that's, I think, what's causing so many suicides, to the fentanyl overdoses, to everything, is it's an expectation of what your child or who a friend or somebody has to be, that you're not accepted. You're not accepted unless you come into this church and you are baptized within this church and you show us that you are on our team. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, then forever you will never be somebody that I even can break bread with or even talk to ever. It's just like, wow, because you don't want to believe in that. And I think that's what we're seeing. But I also think the separation of church and state, that's so important, right? Because what's weird is church doesn't have to look like Christianity. Like, church can look like what you see with the race stuff, what you see with all these different agendas. They become like a church, right? It becomes like a church. It's like, you weren't at the rally, you weren't at this, you weren't at that, you're not part of it. You're not, you know, when Black Lives Matter, you didn't post a black picture.
Yeah.
Right? Like on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Or you didn't do this, right? I mean, you know, that's a church.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard though, is that you have the age of Pisces ending, and that's where the end times revelations is literally about the end of the age of Pisces to Aquarius. It's even, all the scripture is literally what all the magi of the Romans, you know, literally put in there. Like, okay, this book will die, this time will die. And you know, when a man bearing water shows up, age of Aquarius, is when we move on to the next story, that the story will be done. It's a story. It's a book. So the last chapter is Revelations, and it's going to feel like, and it feels like Revelations, but it doesn't mean that it is going to be literal in the way that people see.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be the chaos of that's always the end of Pisces. The last degrees of Pisces, it's the, oh my God, I'm at the end of the fucking road. I don't know. It looks like it's all over. And then it's the tower. You know, it's like, that's what happened to King James. Like, he wrote his book Demonology because he couldn't get to go to see his new wife in the Swedish Isles, you know? And so he thought that witches caused the fucking storms that couldn't get him to go there. We're getting to that place, you know, where people are just going to be like, oh my God, like the dark has created this storm in my life. That's created this thing. That's created that thing. That's created this thing. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's where the paranoia becomes extreme. And so to me, it's just paranoia. It's the church of paranoias now, right? Where it's like, people that go to church though aren't bad people. It's just like when they become bad people is when they let the paranoia sink in and they start saying, no, we're the only ones. And really it's like, you know, and it only has to be through this, and it has to be through this guy, and it has to be through this thing, you know, and also without doing the research of even what the Bible is, how did it come together? Like, you know, and that's the hard line. That's the hard line for people. That's the hard line of how it's always been. That's why Martin Luther, back the last transit of what we had in 2020, was no more. The same way that we were like against the vax mandates or anything, like no more of this shit. And, you know, you saw that back then the church kind of started to back off, and then they went, no, hold on a second. And we're about to see the Pluto coming back into Capricorn. Let's try this again. People aren't ready. People think we've got to the future with Pluto and Aquarius. It's like it's coming back into Capricorn. So it's like Pluto seductive. Like it's like a stripper being like, you're gonna come in here, you're going VIP and all that, and then Pluto coming back to Capricorn is a bouncer. Like, hold on a second. Do you have enough money? Do you have your shot?
Oh shit.
You know, and people right now are feeling like it's fine. And I'm doing my special on Wednesday all about it. I'm calling it, it's just like the most simple thing because it's about time. It's called the fucking time warp, the Pluto time warp. Like we're in a time warp. You can feel time is completely warping. And so when that happens, people start freaking. But that's because Pluto's in the sign of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. So when the dispositor, right, is Saturn. Saturn rules over Capricorn and Pluto's in there. It's going to amplify that Saturnian Capricorn rules, restriction. And that's been happening since 2008. So the financial crisis is all based upon lies and fake building up of things that look deceiving as big corporations when they're really not. They're all zombie corps with like all this money that keeps feeding into the stock market and all this shit, and they don't even actually make money. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's all just money. It's all fake. It's all zombie corps. Like it's all just a prop to look a certain way when it really isn't. So that's ain't even our money. It's a prop too, right? Like, you know, it looks like it's money, but it ain't money, you know? So that's going to be hard for people because, you know, I'm calling it that, but I'm also saying like, you thought it was over? You really thought it was over? You know, with Pluto coming back into Capricorn? And that's where I'm worried with Saturn now being in Pisces with Pluto coming back in because that disposits Neptune's energy, which Neptune's in Pisces. So the delirium and the spiritual dogmatic overtones of revelation moments is coming harder. And then that's where, if COVID taught us a lesson, was to not judge neighbors or not tell people what they should be doing, how they should be saying things, how they should be, right? That's exactly what we were against. So what do you think is going to happen now when it's not going to be about COVID, but it's going to be about something like Jesus would never have done that. He wouldn't have parked his car that way.
Oh, shit.
That's how intense it's going to get.
You don't think people are ready?
No. Man,
I don't know. Well, I mean, at least I'm very confident in saying that much more people are awake now than they were. Is the whole planet awake? Absolutely fucking not. But I can see a noticeable difference. But another thing, going back to what we were talking about off camera earlier about timelines, I'm very, very conscious of the timelines that I'm on. So, like, remember how I talked about in the other episode how I program my algorithms on purpose? Well, I do that in my daily life too. Like when I very first started following like Charlie Ward, Simon Parks, and all them, I followed them for a reason. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to focus all of my energy on what they say, and I'm going to believe it with all my heart. And I did that on purpose because I know I'm going to take that timeline.
Right.
Because there is a timeline where the whole world is still locked down right now.
Right.
They're still pumping everybody with vaccines. There's probably a timeline where they killed me because I said something stupid and my social credit score went down and they came and blew my head off or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So the timeline that you focus on and programming yourself to focus on what you want to believe with a very specific intention, and you will take that timeline. So when it comes to the people awakening, you see a lot of people in the spiritual community bitching because everybody's still asleep. And it's like, well, that's all you're focused on. Like, if all you're thinking about is, why does everybody buy red fucking cars? You're going to see red fucking cars everywhere. Like, I'm like, no, I'm going to focus on the people who are waking up. It's because it's so easy to get sucked into that negative shit.
It is.
Like they take it, these motherfuckers are good. They're good. They know how our psychology works better than we will ever know. And they know how to get us addicted to negativity, get us addicted to bitching, addicted to being pissed off. And there's so many people, even in the spiritual community, and it breaks my heart when I see it. It's like, you're still addicted to that negativity. All you're focused on is the people who are asleep. And all you're bitching and complaining about is the people who are asleep. Like, I personally see lots of people who have awakened, a lot.
I mean, I agree. My counter to that is, with Pluto coming back into Capricorn, is what we haven't been seeing. So with Aquarius, we've seen everybody has woke up, and the dark has used this really well. Look at it. Don't need to worry about this anymore while they've been setting everything up. And I love how you bring up it's about focusing on the timeline, because that's what everybody's gonna have to do through this last part of this year and the beginnings of next year until we finally get into Aquarius by November of 2024. is to have that. It's like a target that you don't lose, the same way that I say about astrology. Don't get caught up in the wobble. Keep the focus on like the ecliptic and what we know, right? Like the right timeline, because they're going to, when Pluto comes back in, it's going to be like, oh, you didn't know we were setting all this stuff up in the background. Mm-hmm. So as everybody's been waking up and it looks good, what I'm worried about is those that have now woken up and more people that they're not strong enough to, when it hits, they get lost in the chaos because they're like, wait, I thought it was going good. I thought this timeline was going good. Because the crazy part is that we're in between timelines. We're in the hot new one and we're finishing the old one. So it's the finishing of it. But at a finish, you know, it's one of those things. It's the last lap in the marathon. A lot of people are awake, but when you tell them we need to go all out hard because it's going to feel like the toughest, it's like,
yeah.
Oh, wait, I didn't sign up for that. I just wanted it to be easy. But the easy part is just keep your focus on that timeline, even though this one's going to be fucking towering out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also projecting fear like crazy. And that's the stuff I'm going to be going into, is like what you haven't been seeing or feeling is because even the dark used Aquarius to be like, well, if you noticed, it was about AI and the integration of AI. But when you come back to Capricorn, when they're saying like, well, yeah, we're going to be using AI now to do what's true, what's not true. What's deep fake, what's not deep fake. What metadata is going to be on a video behind it that certifies it as real and what isn't. But who's certifying it? Right? The same way of who's the person to say who's verified as this was fact checked. That's kindergarten. When the fact checkers create the mark that goes on the screen that says it's verified, the mark of the beast is going to come in ways that people never even dreamed of, right? When it comes in, it's like the fact checkers are the ones that mark something as true and say that you're the AI, when it's really the AI that's saying it's real when it's not. Mm-hmm. That the systems of Capricorn have been in secret more than ever, been integrating what already was built, that already made you think you were out to pull you back in and say, oh, we had you outside to make you feel like you were getting your papers to leave the jail. We were redoing the jail. And this isn't about like freaking out when we all get back in the jail because we're not in jail, because we know that it's not going to work. But that's hard for a lot of people because it looks too real. You know what I mean?
I mean, like we were talking about before we went live earlier when let's see, what was it? I don't even remember exactly what we were talking about, but I was saying that basically it's going to be like natural selection. Like, oh yeah, we were talking about the whole trans thing falling out and whatnot. It's going to be like natural selection. Like there are some people who are going to wake up and there are some people who are not. Like at a certain point, there's going to be a point of like a judgment day. There's going to be a point of judgment where this is it. You're either ready or you're not.
Right.
Bam. And no, not everybody's going to make it. Not everybody's going to make the new timeline. Once that final is complete, some people are going to go with the old planet. Some of us are going to come with a new one. So right. The whole planet's not going to awaken. Now, with the whole totality of the big picture, eventually will we all make it there? Eventually at some point in time, yes. In the next, 1,000 years. But as far as now, no. Eventually, once the split completes, no, not everybody's going to wake up. And I seriously believe that there are beings who came here to go to the lower timeline. And that's the reason why they came here, because they're like the fucking extreme sports junkies of the universe. And they like this hard 3D shit. And they're addicted to it. And they love it. And that's the reason their higher self loves playing these fucking hard human games. And they fucking dig that shit. And that's what they want to come here and fucking do. And if that's what their higher self... they are determined to come here and play these low frequency 3D games. That's exactly what they're going to do. And it doesn't matter. Every light worker on the fucking planet put together is not going to be able to change their path. And it just is what it is. But for those of us who do awaken, then yes, once that time comes around, like you said, you focus on that timeline. Yeah. And all the shit will just crumble around you and you're good. We're sailing through it,
Yeah, I think it's about understanding the macro, because I think if you think of the split of the new earth, it's like, because you work with trees, it would be like a huge fucking trunk that has broken in half. And it's at the last part before they split. But right now, everybody's so micro, if you were to take a microscope, that it looks like it's so bonded together. But if you were to macro out, you're like, it's the last moment of the pop. Mm-hmm. That's what the next year and a half is that last moment of the pop. So it's like, but you can't get lost in the timeline of, because what they're doing is they're using things like magnifying the experience to get you in a micro moment instead of a macro. To see the, oh wait, the tree's already split. I'm on this new earth. Okay, the simulation's going to look like I'm in jail the same way it did 3 years ago that people bought when it wasn't. It's going to do that again, just way more intricate now with all the Aquarian stuff. And it's like, no, I'm macroing out and staying on this new earth, and it'll split. But that's where I think the next one should be the judgment, because I think that's the biggest part of what Pluto coming back to Capricorn is. Capricorn is judgment, right? That's what's a hard card, because that's a card where the angels and the trumpet call, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny about Trump too. There's so much that's aligned with all of it that, that's what's crazy, is that this is going to get very to the judgment of it all, which is not the judgment through the Bible as much as the spiritual judgment of the divine, whatever that you want to define it as. But it's raising out of the coffins that you're not dead. Or if you want to be gray and choose to be dead, that's a crazy card. That's my favorite card. One of my favorite.
The Judgment?
Yeah, one's fucking.
We should do that one sometime.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I was trying to remember if we've done that before. We haven't done that one yet.
No, we have not.
We do that next time. Yeah, I like that card. Yep.
Well, it was fun today, man. So
absolutely.
Loved having this show and love all you. It was popping for Memorial Day. It was good to have all you with us, and definitely make sure that you're on High Vibe so you can watch Rich Lopp show. Plus, he had just did his special, and he always is going to be doing some super special events. Plus, Rich and I are going to be doing a special workshop here before I become a dad. So we're putting that together right now, where we're going to do like a whole weekend, have people go on the beach, do workshops here, do our show. You can be part of it here at the studios, and a lot of workshop aspects. So we'll be putting that out really soon. And then I have my special event Wednesday, which you can go on High Vibe TV, find that. Just go to the watch. And even if you're not a subscriber, you can buy the specials like Rich's new special or mine. You don't have to be a subscriber. You can just purchase it. It's always in your library, on the app, or on the website forever. You don't have to be a subscriber just to buy a special video. So make sure you check that out. It's in his section, and then mine's in my section. And then we'll let you know about the retreat that we're going to be doing workshop-wise here at the studios and around here and on the beach, and figure it all out. Because we were saying we wanted to have people here for the show, and that'll be for the future too. But before I become a dad here and have to be on call, we wanted to do a big workshop, like a full-blown thing. So we're looking forward to it. You have any last words, bro?
Oh, not really. I'm just really looking forward to that, some kind of live event where you all will actually be able to come and watch us, do this, sitting out there, I guess, on the stage. That's going to be fucking cool. And then workshops, readings, meet and greet.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be fun.
And also, I think it's cool that, when I bought my readings from Rich, they were pre-recorded, but he does actual Zoom readings now. So you can go get a reading from Rich now on where do you find that? It's on your website, right?
Yeah, it's on my website. It's under the description of every last one of my videos. And now since we got all this going on and we're doing some stuff behind the scenes, I went ahead and did away with those pre-recorded readings, and yeah, I'm just doing one-on-one Zoom call readings, and it's a little bit different because with my pre-recorded readings, there was no assigned time limit, but there was a limit of 3 questions. Now it's the opposite. There's unlimited questions, but it's either a 30-minute time block or a 1-hour time block, depending on which. So, yeah, growth, evolution, expansion, constantly changing, growing, and evolving, and that's what I'm all about.
I think it's awesome. I honestly, that's when I first was watching you, I was like, he has an offer where I could talk to him? Fuck. I guess I'll take the pre-recording. And don't worry, I mean, it was amazing, but I would have back then just been like, oh shit, I want to talk to him and have him pull the cards with me and be able to fucking go back and forth like that.
We did away with that during 2020. I was doing Zoom call readings for a little bit, and then the lockdowns happened, and the kids were home all day, and we were in this little teeny apartment, and the kids were rowdy, hyper, fucking little crazy little Tasmanian devils running around the house all day, and we was just like, you know what, we'll just do away with this, and then we just never brought it back. We just kept it going. So that was the reason why I originally did away with it.
Right,
because
that
of
makes
that.
sense.
Yeah. So, but yeah, bringing them back now, and until further notice, that's all I'm doing. I might bring the pre-recorded ones back at some point in the future. I don't know, but for now.
Well, I think people are going to like having these Zoom ones, especially with Zoom today and being much more to be able to be with you and they can record it on Zoom. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got a reading from Rich, get a reading from Rich. Go to his website, tarotwithrich.com, right?
Yep.
All right, everyone. We'll see you on the next one, The Awakening Experience. Thanks for all the support. Share this with everybody. We don't ever actually ask that. I thought we might as well just say, hey, share with people. That's all we ask for.
Yeah,
We don't
clip
really
this
ask for
shit up
much.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, rip clips, post it all over the shorts feed. Shit, do whatever you want to do. We got to get this message out here, you know?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Get more people understanding that there's more to this fucking life than this bullshit. All you go through and you look at shorts and reels and clips, and it's just people arguing and bitching about the stupidest 3D bullshit. And we gotta do something to at least start a movement to try to raise consciousness up out of that, you know?
I agree. 100%. That's all it's about. Every situation that looks so intense and all that, it's like, come back to this work first and then look at that. And when you see it from that, then you get the real view. All right, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Adios.
Later.